श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ जू की जाय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत शिशिमार भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गौर बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुगुगरिया गुरुवर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भद्रदास रघुनाथ शारदा गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम अचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्यामा कुंद की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जय। तदीय शुभ तिरुभाव तिथि की जय। तिथि पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री उद्धव-गीता की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। Sārārtha-darśinī वृत्ति की जय। श्री भक्तिसिद्धānta सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद गौड़ीय भाष्य की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि गो। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतं। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत्सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी। तवैवास्मि तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। Bhaja Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Bol, everybody. Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Yashoda Didi, Kishore Prabhu, and yeah, Keshav Ki Jai. Hari Bol, everybody. Alright, so where are we reading? Okay, we're going to read about Śrīla Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura from Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja's his book Sri Caitanya and his Associates. So let's find Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura. Also, I'm considering reading from Caitanya Bhagavata every day. I haven't totally made up my mind yet, but the idea just came to my head. Okay, Sri Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura. Also, for those of you in America, it's still Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja's disappearance day, isn't it? So, Jai Śrīla Bhakti Ballabha Tīrtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai. Okay, Sri Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura. Vedavyaso ya evasid daso Vṛndāvano dhuna sakhaya kusama pīda karyatastam samavishat. Vedavyas became Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura. Krishna's friend Kusumapid also entered into him for the sake of the Lord's pastimes. That's from Gaur Ganadashtipika 109. Interesting. So Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura is Vedavyas and Kusumapida. Vedavyas described Krishna's pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Non-different from Vyas, Vṛndāvana dāsa described Mahaprabhu's pastimes in his Caitanya Bhagavat. His book was first called Caitanya Mangal, but when Lochan Das later gave the same name to his biography of the Lord, it was dubbed Caitanya Bhagavat. Vṛndāvana Dasa's mother, Narayani. Vṛndāvana Das was born on the Krishna Dwadashi of the month of Vaishak in 1429 of the Shaka era, which is 1507 AD. Some say he was born in Mamgachi in the Navadvip area. Others say his birthplace was in Kumarhata. His father was Vaikunthanatha Vipra, who originally came from Silhet. His mother was Narayani Devi. Narayani was the daughter of Srivas Pandit's elder brother, Sri Nalina Pandit. Kavi Karnapur has also mentioned her name in his Gaur Ganadashtipika. Ambikaya Swasaya Sin Namni Śrīla Kilimbika Krishno Chishtam Prabhunjana Seyam Narayani Mata. Kilimbika, who used to eat Krishna's remnants, was the younger sister of Krishna's nurse Ambika, that's Srivasa's wife Malini. In Mahaprabhu's Leela, she became Narayani. Okay. Narayani also achieved fame because Gaur Sundar bestowed his mercy on her when he gave her his remnants. Wait, just going back to this Gaur Ganadashtipika thing. So Kalimbika is the younger sister of Krishna's nurse, Ambika, who in Ambika in Mahaprabhu's pastimes is Malini. So in Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Narayani is the niece of Srivas and his wife, right? But in Krishna Lila, then there's Malini and Narayani are sisters, right? Just making sure I'm understanding correctly. Okay, so Narayani also achieved fame because Gaur Sundar bestowed his mercy on her when he gave her his remnants. Narayani was only a small child of 4 when the Lord displayed his divine form in the Mahaprakash in Srivas Angan, but the Lord still made her intoxicated with the ecstasy of prem. Whether born in Mamgachi or in Kumarahata, Vṛndāvana dāsa spent part of his childhood with his mother in Mamgachi at the home of his maternal grandparents, where Narayani was married. Vṛndāvana dāsa's Gaur Nitai deities are still worshipped at the Mamgachi home. When his father died, he and his mother moved to Srivasa's house, where they received Mahaprabhu's special blessings. Vṛndāvana dāsa later moved to the village of Denur in the Matreshwar precinct of the Burdwan district. Thus, Denur is considered to be his Shripad. Just checking everything's running okay. Looks like it. Haribol, Champak Didi, and Madhavi Didi, and Mitra Vrinda Didi. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Haribol. Vṛndāvana dāsa writes Caitanya Bhagavat. Vṛndāvana dāsa dāsa Ṭhākura is Vyasadeva of the pastimes of Caitanya. His Caitanya Mangal annihilates all misfortune. From it, I learnt the wonders of Sri Caitanya and Nityananda Prabhu, and came to know all the subtlest doctrines of devotional service to Krishna. Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura has summarized the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam's teachings in his Caitanya Mangal. If even an atheist or a Muslim should listen to Caitanya Mangal, he immediately becomes a great Vaishnav. An ordinary human being could not have composed such a sublime work. Lord Caitanya himself has spoken through the mouth of Vṛndāvana dāsa. I offer millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura, who has delivered the entire universe through his book. He was born in the womb of Narayani, who ate the remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How wonderful is his description of the activities of the Lord! Simply by hearing them, all the 3 worlds have become sanctified. That's Caitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 8:34-42. In the Caitanya Bhagavat, Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura primarily narrates Mahaprabhu's early life, such as his childhood, his student life, his chastisement of the Kazi, his departure from Navadip, as well as some aspects of his life in Puri. He then became so absorbed in the description of Nityananda Prabhu's Leela that he only gave an abbreviated account of Mahaprabhu's later pastimes. Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosvāmī then elaborated on these undescribed activities in his Caitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosvāmī wrote, Vṛndāvana dāsa is the authorized biographer of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and equal to Srila Vyasadeva. He has described the Lord's pastimes in a very sweet way. He was afraid of excessively enlarging his book, and so he left some parts of Mahaprabhu's pastimes untold. I shall try as far as possible to fill these empty spaces. That's Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 13, verses 48 to 49. Vṛndāvana dāsa's criticism of Vaishnava aparad. Vṛndāvana dāsa showed infinite mercy on the fallen souls by warning them. Eto parihare oje papi ninda kore, tabe lati maro tar shirer upare. If someone still blasphemes the Vaishnava, even after being told how objectionable it is, I will kick him in the head. These same words are repeated several times throughout Caitanya Bhagavat. Some foolish and arrogant persons misunderstand such statements and criticize Vṛndāvana dāsa for having made them. Such criticism leads them to be mired in the bog of Vaishnava aparad. In this connection, the remarks of Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Ṭhākura Prabhupāda, the founder of the Sri Caitanya Math and all the Gauḍīya Maths, are well worth studying. I am even ready to kick the heads of those envious and hellish persons who blaspheme Nityananda Prabhu, to forever prevent them from repeating their attempts to show disrespect to the Supreme Lord. Not only that, by so doing, I can bring about a clear conception of the truth, and I will be offering them the greatest service. With these words, the Ṭhākura reveals compassion for even the most atheistic blasphemer with the unswerving faith appropriate to a servant of Nityananda Prabhu, the Supreme Guru. By this, he instructs that though such people are an object of indifference due to their foolishness, their ignorance of the truth of Nityananda Prabhu, their insistence on rushing headlong onto the path of hell, and their reluctance to act in their own real self-interest. Nevertheless, he and other compassionate Vaishnavas like him, who practice and preach the Lord's doctrines, act for their welfare, selflessly and causelessly. Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura is a servant of Nityananda Prabhu, who is an avatar of Vyasa and Acharya of the Vaishnava faith. If even a single fleck of dust should fall from Vṛndāvana dāsa's foot onto the head of a sinful blasphemer, then that person will be blessed, and all his sinful conditioning will inevitably be eradicated. The compassion of Vishnu and Vaishnavas is beyond the comprehension of those who do not know what is truly in their own self-interest. Anyone who follows in the footsteps of Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura and both practices and preaches pure devotion to Gaura Krishna will always be engaged in an effort to bring about everyone's ultimate well-being. Though he may make a show of wanting to punish the enemies of the Lord, he in fact harbors a compassion toward them that knows no limit. Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura's disappearance day is the Krishna Dashami of Vaishak, which is today. There is some dispute about the exact year of his disappearance, which was likely 1511 Shaka, that's 1589 AD. Śrīla Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura ki jai. Uh-oh, it's been cutting out, huh? Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm considering reading Caitanya Bhagavat, but I'm thinking not to do it live, and then I can just upload each chapter as I finish it. It's what I'm thinking right now, but I don't know, it might be taking on too much. Anyways, I'll let you know what I end up doing. Alright, so now we are continuing on with our reading of, where is it? Uddhava-gīta. Today we're beginning chapter 7. I didn't have time to prepare the chapter today, so I don't know where we're going to read up to. I'm just going to read until it's 8:30. So that means, what is it? That means we're going to read for 40 minutes. Okay. One second, let me just move this over like this. Okay. The Hansa avatar answers the questions of the sons of Brahma. Chapter summary by Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. In this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna explains how the conditioned souls become bound by the three modes of material nature due to being full of desires for sense gratification. The means for liberating the conditioned souls is also discussed. In this chapter, the Lord tells how he appeared as Lord Hamsa before Brahma and his sons, the four Kumaras, and spoke to them confidentially. The three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, have no actual relationship with the eternal soul. One should free himself from the influence of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, by cultivating the mode of goodness. Ultimately, one should transcend the mode of goodness by acting on the platform of pure goodness. The three modes of material nature influence one according to one's association with particular types of scripture, water, places, times, recipients of charity, quality of activities, births, meditations, mantras, rituals, and so on. Being merged in ignorance, the conditioned soul misidentifies with the material body, so that the mode of passion conquers the mode of goodness, thus producing misery. When the mode of passion predominates, the mind becomes filled with insatiable desires for sense gratification. Those who are tormented by strong urges produced by the mode of passion become slaves of their senses. Although they can understand that this will eventually bring on all kinds of misery, they cannot resist the temptation to gratify their senses. On the other hand, one who is actually intelligent will remain detached from the objects of the senses by taking shelter of pure devotional service. Lord Brahma is referred to as the unborn original person within the universe. He is the secondary creator of the living entities, and he is the ultimate ruler of all the demigods. And yet, even Brahma is anxious because of his contact with the material nature. Therefore, when he was questioned by his mind-born sons, headed by Shanaka about the means for renouncing all desires for sense gratification, he couldn't conclusively reply. Therefore, for further enlightenment, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that the Lord appeared before him as the swan incarnation, Lord Hamsa. Lord Hamsa then instructed Brahma about the nature of the self, the three states of consciousness, wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep, and the means for crossing the ocean of material existence. The sages, headed by Sanaka, became enlightened by hearing the words of the Lord, and they worshipped him in a mood of unalloyed devotion. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sattvam Rajastama iti Guna Buddhir Nachatmana Sattve Nanyatamo Hanyat Sattvam Sattvena Chaivahi. The Supreme Lord said, the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, pertain to material intelligence and not to the soul. You should subdue the modes of passion and ignorance by the cultivation of the mode of goodness. Thereafter, you should conquer even the mode of material goodness by the cultivation of the transcendental mode of pure goodness. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. In this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna explains that one should give up attachment to the three modes of material nature, and he also describes the history of the Hamsa incarnation. In the previous chapter, the Lord concluded that one should destroy the tree mode of material existence. Or that's supposed to say three modes, right? Did explain the tree though. Maybe that mode was not supposed to be there. Anyways, the Lord concluded that one should destroy the tree made of material existence by utilizing the acts of knowledge. Now, in the next 7 verses, he will explain how one can acquire that knowledge. The three material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are qualities of material intelligence. One must rise above the state of nescience, which is the cause of material bondage. One should conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by cultivating the mode of goodness. And then the mode of goodness can be transcended, stepping onto the platform of pure goodness. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya commentary by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. The subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, are material, and under the influence of the three modes of material nature. And they are under the influence of the three modes of material nature. The subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. The spirit soul, on the other hand, is completely aloof from matter. One should regain his original condition of life by curtailing the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance, by cultivating the mode of goodness, and then transcends the influence of mixed material goodness by taking shelter of transcendental goodness, Vishuddha Sattva. Sattva dharmo bhaved vṛddāt, pungso mar bhakti lakshana, sattviko pasaya sattvam, tato dharma pravartate. When the conditioned soul becomes firmly situated in the mode of goodness, religious principles characterized by devotional service to me, he becomes prominent in his life. Oh my God, what am I saying? When the conditioned soul becomes firmly situated in the mode of goodness, religious principles characterized by devotional service to me, these qualities become prominent in his life. Religious principles characterized by devotional service become prominent in his life. Sorry guys, I don't know what's wrong with me. One can strengthen the mode of goodness by cultivation of those things that are characterized by goodness. Interesting. Sārārtha-darśinī. By fixing oneself firmly in the mode of goodness, one can minimize the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he can easily accept devotional service to the Lord. However, without engagement in devotional service, the cultivation of the mode of goodness is practically useless. How can one strengthen his position in the mode of goodness? The answer is that by choosing food, attitudes, work, recreation, etc., strictly in the mode of goodness, one will become firmly situated in that mode. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Hare Krishna, Gopikant Prabhu. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The purified mode of goodness is called Vishuddha Sattva, or the transcendental platform on which there is no trace of any other quality. In pure goodness, knowledge automatically manifests, and one can easily understand one's eternal loving relationship with Lord Krishna. That is the actual meaning and purpose of dharma, or religious principles. Dharmo rajastamo hanyat, sattva vriddhir anuttama, ashu nashyati tanmulo, ya dharma ubhaye hate. When one follows the religious principles of goodness, this practice frees one from the influence of passion and ignorance. When passion and ignorance are not present, then their original cause, irreligion, cannot be seen. Sārārtha-darśinī. When the influence of passion and ignorance is vanquished, irreligious principles that are born of passion and ignorance are also vanquished. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. There is no superior quality than purified goodness, which, when developed, vanquishes the qualities of passion and ignorance. When it says purified goodness, it means Vishuddha Sattva, which is beyond the material modes. When passion and ignorance are destroyed, then irreligion, which is the origin of these qualities, is also destroyed. Agamo pa prajadesha, kala karma cha janma cha, dhyana mantra ta samskaro, dashaite gunahetava. Religious scriptures, water, one's association with one's children or people in general, the particular place, the time, activities, birth, meditation, chanting of mantras, and purificatory rituals. These vary in quality so that by their association, the modes of nature become variously prominent. Sārārtha-darśinī. It has already been described that by eating food in the mode of goodness, one's existence becomes purified. The next two verses describe objects on the platform of goodness. The word agama means religious scriptures, and the word praja means people in general. There are three kinds of religious scriptures: those in the mode of goodness, those in the mode of passion, and those in the mode of ignorance. Sārārtha-darśinī. The three material modes are prominent in varieties of people, water, children, time, place, action, mantras, and so on. Tat tat satvikam evaisham yad yad vṛddha prachakshate nindanti tamasam tat tar rajasam tar upekshitam. Among the 10 items I have just mentioned, the ones that have been praised by great sages such as Śrīla Vṛndāvana are those that are sattvika, are in the mode of goodness. The ones that have been condemned are those that are tamasika, in the mode of ignorance. And the ones that have been neglected are those that are rajasika, or in the mode of passion. Sārārtha-darśinī. The sattvika scriptures have been glorified by the great sages. The tamasic scriptures have been criticized, and the rajasic scriptures have been ignored, meaning that they have neither been praised nor criticized. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Among these 10 items, the ones that are beneficial and admirable are sattvika, the ones that are obnoxious and are tamasic, and the ones that simply give rise to indifference are rajasic. Satvikanyeva seveta puman sattva vivriddhaye tato dharmas tato jnanam yavat smritir apohanam. Until one attains the platform of self-realization and is thus able to give up his illusory identification with the gross and subtle bodies, which is caused by the three modes of nature, he should cultivate the mode of goodness. When one's quality of goodness is enhanced, religious principles can be practiced, leading to an awakening of one's transcendental understanding. Sārārtha-darśinī. One should study those scriptures that are in the mode of goodness, and therefore prescribe detachment from sense gratification and mental speculation. One should not study the rajasic and tamasic scriptures that propagate the paths of sense gratification and atheism by means of religious rituals and impersonal philosophy. One should bathe and quench his thirst with pure water, and remain aloof from contaminated water in the form of perfume and wine. One should associate with those who are cultivating detachment from this material world, and give up the association of those who aspire for material enjoyment and who are sinful. One should reside in a solitary place in the association of devotees. One should not be attracted to gambling in casinos or bars. One should worship the Supreme Lord during the auspicious time of Brahma Muhurta and avoid the sinful influence of the middle of the night. I'm going to share that with... I just stayed up really late with Shrivas. Sorry. 1 second.
What's that about Brahma Muhurta?
No, look. One should worship the Supreme Lord during the auspicious time of Brahma Muhurta and avoid the sinful influence of the middle of the night.
Oh, my favorite time.
One should conscientiously perform his prescribed duties, and pious activities should never be performed with a desire to fulfill one's lusty ambitions or to give trouble to others. One should receive an initiation mantra from a bona fide spiritual master and not take initiation into the chanting of insignificant Shakta mantras. One should meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, and not on lusty women and envious men. Following the example of Lord Caitanya, one should chant the holy names of the Lord, and not songs that glorify the bondage of lust between men and women. Purificatory rituals should be accepted for the purpose of actual purification, and not for the purpose of achieving material blessings. When one tries to cultivate the mode of goodness by following the principles of religion, transcendental knowledge will awaken within the heart. This knowledge consists of the eternal nature of the individual spirit soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such knowledge frees one from the bodily concept of life, and thus destroys the material designations that cover the conditioned souls. This is the path to eternal life. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Yes, Gopikant Prabhu. He says, as the religious principles are situated in goodness, that means that they are still material, because the gunas are related to the material energy. Is it correct to say that spiritual advancement is separated from the gunas? Yes, true spiritual advancement is separated from the gunas. Yes. There can be like indirect spiritual advancement, but it's not real genuine spiritual advancement. But like, things that are favorable, and like there's Arup Siddha Bhakti, and Arup Siddha Bhakti is like when it's not real bhakti, but it's being used, like it's favorable for bhakti, and it's not harming bhakti or anything like that, but it isn't bhakti. It's like you're like dovetailing our material propensities in Krishna's service, things like that. You wouldn't say it's actually bhakti, but it's arup. It's being dovetailed. Okay. And so in that way, like, just becoming more sattvic, it's not, I'm not sure if you call that arup siddha bhakti, but whatever. But yeah, just becoming more sattvic, it's like, it's not harmful for bhakti. It's like, it's good. It could become harmful for bhakti though. If like, sometimes people, they'll want to leave the temple, which is in the middle of a city, and it's lots of passion, and and there's all these people and things going on, and people just want to have a really sattvic, nice life in the forest, secluded, away from, and not in the company of devotees. And so like that would be harmful for bhakti, that kind of sattvic thing. But then cultivating, other sattvic qualities, and then ultimately these qualities are actually not sattvic, but they become spiritual qualities, like what is it? Krishna Shakti, Krishna Guna. No, what is it? Krishna Guna. Oh God, what is it? Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Guna Sakali Sanchare. Then the qualities of Krishna become infused. In the devotee who are practicing bhakti. The devotees become infused with the qualities of Krishna who are practicing bhakti. So then externally it might look like, sattvic qualities, but actually they're more than that. They're transcendental, Vishuddha Sattva. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. Okay, Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. One who diligently remains aloof from the influence of passion and ignorance can enhance the quality of goodness. Only in this way can one achieve real knowledge, and thereby free oneself from the gross and subtle designations that cover his pure existence. Interesting. Okay. Oh, and Haribol Ganga Mataji. Sorry, I'm not sure if I saw you there. Venu Sangharshajo Vahnir Dagdva Shamyati Tarvanam Evam Guna Vyatyajajo Deha Shamyati Tatkriya. When fire is produced from the friction of bamboos in the forest, it burns the source of its birth, the bamboo forest. Thus, the fire is calmed by its own action. Similarly, the gross and subtle bodies of the living entities are created by the interactions of the material modes of nature. If one uses his gross and subtle body to cultivate knowledge of the self, then such enlightenment destroys the influence of the material modes of nature. Thus, like the fire, the the body and mind are pacified by their own actions in destroying the source of their birth. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The term guna vyatyaya indicates that the body is generated by the competition of the three modes of material nature, which exists everywhere in constantly changing proportions. As fire produced by the friction of bamboo sticks burns a forest and then becomes extinguished, the gross and subtle bodies, which are generated by the interaction of the material modes of nature, become pacified when the influence of the modes of nature is destroyed. Text 8. Shri Uddhava Uvacha Vedanti martaprayena vishayan paramapadam tatapi bhunjate Krishna tatkatang shvakarajavat. Shri Uddhava said, human beings can generally understand that material life ultimately awards great misery, but still they try to enjoy it as much as they can. My dear Lord Krishna, how can a person who possesses genuine knowledge act just like a dog or a donkey? Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Due to an absence of foresight, dogs, asses, and goats put themselves into great danger. A dog steals food at the risk of being beaten or killed, and if he often approaches a bitch for sex, even though she bares her teeth and snarls, threatening with severe injury. And he often approaches a female dog for sex, even though she bares her teeth and snarls, threatening him with severe injury. One second, I just need to sit up. I'm getting too comfortable. An ass approaches a female ass for sex simply to be kicked by her hind legs. He carries a heavy burden all day long simply for a little grass that is available everywhere. A goat is being taken into the slaughterhouse, and yet, even in that situation, he happily approaches a female goat for sex. Similarly, most human beings, being without the understanding that the acts of sense gratification are the very causes of their suffering, indulge themselves without restriction. Uddhava wants to know why human beings are generally mad after sense gratification, even when they know that it will simply cause them miseries in the future. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham ityanyatha buddhi pramatasya yatha hridi utsarpati rajo ghoram tato vaikarikam manaha rajayuktasta manasa sankalpa sa vikalpaka tata kamo gunadhyanar dusaha syadhi dhurmate. The Supreme Lord said, O Uddhava, an ignorant person falsely identifies himself with the material body and mind. In this consciousness, the mode of passion, which simply causes distress, overwhelms the mind, which is born of the mode of goodness. The mind, under the influence of the mode of passion, functions by accepting and rejecting things in the hopes of making material advancement. As a result, by constantly thinking of the products of the modes of material nature, a foolish person becomes afflicted with unbearable material longings. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord says, those who thirst for sense gratification cannot be called learned men, although they think of themselves as very intelligent. The process by which one is helplessly bound in illusion is clearly described herein. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The words sankalpa sa vikalpaka in this verse indicate that materialistic people are continually making plans in the hopes of attaining happiness and avoiding suffering. Any sane person must admit that, in spite of all such plans, material life is simply full of miseries. The mind is a creation of the mode of goodness, and thus it is not meant for absorption in attempts to fulfill the animalistic propensities which are impelled by the lower modes of passion and ignorance. Karoti kamavashagha karma avijitendriya dukho darkani sampashyan rajovega vimohita. One who fails to control his senses comes under the control of material desires and is thus bewildered by the strong waves of the mode of passion. Such a person performs material activities with great enthusiasm, although he clearly sees that the result will be future unhappiness. Sārārtha-darśinī. In the hopes of increasing his material enjoyment, a person of uncontrolled senses performs many activities, although he knows very well that they will ultimately bring him misery. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Being driven by material desires, materialistic people who are controlled by their senses invite unlimited distress. Text 12. Rajastamobhyam yad api vedvan vikshiptadhi puna atandrito mano yunjan dosha drishtir nasajate. When the mind of an intelligent person is disturbed by the modes of passion and ignorance, he should carefully control his mind. By clearly seeing the contamination of the modes of nature, he does not become attached. Sārārtha-darśinī. Even though learned people are sometimes disturbed by the modes of passion and ignorance coming under their control, they do not become attached due to understanding the inauspicious consequences. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Although a learned person's mind may become disturbed because of its nature of accepting and rejecting the things of this world, because he knows that he will incur sin if he indulges in acts of passion and ignorance, he does not allow himself to be deviated from his religious life. Apramato nuyunjita mano mayarpayanchanai anirvinno yatha kalam jita shvaso jitasana. One should be attentive and grave, and never indolent or depressed. While diligently practicing the yoga procedures of breathing and sitting postures, one should practice fixing the mind on me at dawn, noon, and sunset. In this way, the mind will gradually become absorbed in me. Sārārtha-darśinī. The word atandrita means cautious. One should never be diverted by sense gratification. Where should one fix his mind? The Supreme Lord is herein giving the answer. On me. If one is unable to fix the mind on the Lord in the beginning, don't be discouraged, but continue one's practice to gradually make advancement. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are trying to absorb their minds in thought of the Supreme Lord should give up all desires for enjoying the objects of the external world. They should remain enthusiastically engaged in the service of the Lord while practicing asanas, pranayam, and so on. Etavan yoga adishto machchishyai sanakadibi sarvato mana akrishya mayadda veshyate yatha. The actual yoga system, as taught by my devotees, headed by Sanaka Kumar, can be summarized in these few words. After withdrawing the minds from all other objects, one should completely absorb it in me, without deviation. Shri Uddhava-uvacha. Haribo Sudevi Didi. Oh yeah, and I forgot about Indira Mataji. Dandavat Pranams Indira Mataji will be watching this soon. Shri Uddhava-uvacha. Yadatvam sanakadibhyo yena rupena keshava yogam adishtavan etar rupam ichchami veditum. Sri Uddhava said, O Keshav, I would like to know when and in what form did you instruct the science of yoga to the sages headed by Sanaka? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Putra Hiranyagarbhasya Manasa Sanakadaya Paprachu Pitaram Shukshmam Yogasyai Kantikim Gatim. The Supreme Lord said, once the sages headed by Sanaka, who were born from the mind of Brahma, inquired from him about the difficult subject matter of the goal of yoga. Sārārtha-darśinī. The phrase Aikantikim Gatim means the ultimate goal. Sanakadaya uchu guneshva vishate cheto gunashchetasi cha prabho katam anyonya santyago mumukshor atititisho. The sages headed by Sanak said, My dear Lord, the minds of human beings are naturally attracted towards the objects of sense gratification, and the sense objects enter the mind in the form of material desires. Considering this, how can a person who desires liberation, who wants to desist from the activities of sense gratification, sever the mutual tie between the sense objects and the mind? Please explain this to us. Sārārtha-darśinī. The sons of Brahma said to their father, Human beings are naturally attached to sense gratification, and this attachment is firmly rooted within their minds. How is it possible for a person who wishes to conquer the urges for material enjoyment to cut off the relationship between the sense objects and the mind? Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. An intelligent person must understand that as long as he remains conditioned by material nature, the modes of nature will constantly disturb him with enticements for sense gratification. If one falls victim to such allurements, the perfection of life will remain unachieved. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Evam Prishto Mahadeva Swayambhur Bhuta Bhavana Dhyayamana Prashna Bijam Nabhyapadyata Karmadhi. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Uddhav, Brahma, who is born from my body and who is the creator of the living entities within this material world, being the best among the demigods, seriously considered how to answer the question of his sons, headed by Sanak. The intelligence of Brahma, however, was affected by his activities of creation, and so he could not discover the essential answer to their question. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, Brahma is the best among the demigods and the creator of the living beings, and yet, even after much consideration, he could not understand the actual answer of the question placed before him by his sons. This was due to the fact that his intelligence had been affected by his activities of creation, which were performed with material attachment. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Because of being attached to his activities of creation, Prajapati Brahma, the creator of living entities, was unable to answer the question of his sons. Samam anchintayad deva prashnapara titirshaya tasyaham hangsarupena sakasham agamam tada. Brahma wanted to find out the answer to the question that was puzzling him, and so he meditated on me. At that time, I appeared before him in my form as Hamsa. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, while thinking over the answer to his son's question, Brahma absorbed his mind in meditation upon me. Just to show him mercy, I revealed myself to Brahma by appearing before him in my form as Hamsa. As the Hamsa, or swan, is able to separate milk from water, I appeared to separate Brahma's intelligence from the modes of material nature. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Being unable to answer the question of Sanaka, Brahma began to meditate upon the Supreme Lord. At that time, the Lord assumes the form of Hamsa and appeared before Brahma. Brahma then inquired from Hamsa about his identity. Okay, I think I'm going to end with this verse. Or let's see. Maybe I'll read a couple more verses. Drishtva mam tu upavrajya kritva pada bivandanam brahmanam agrata kritva paprachu ko bhavan iti. Upon seeing my form as Hamsa, the sages, headed by Sanak, placing Brahma in the lead, approached me and worshipped my lotus feet. They then asked me, "Who are you?" Ityaham munibi prishtas tattva jigyasubhistada yaravocham aham tebhyas tad Uddhava nibodhame. My dear Uddhav, the sages were eager to understand the actual purpose of yoga, and so they inquired from me. Now listen attentively as I repeat my instructions to the sages. So I think this is a good place to end. We will hear Hamsa's instructions to the sages tomorrow. All right, so now, since during this Kesha Vrat, I'm going to just, after our Srimad Bhagavatam reading, I'm going to just immediately do Jaidvani, and then we'll sing Keshavashtakam and Mahamantra. And anybody who wants to leave before we sing Keshavashtakam, they're completely free to do so. All right. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Vṛndāvana Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Goswāmī Prabhupāda Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Bhagavat Śrīla Gorksharas Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai Shri Rupa Gauḍīya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Raghunath Sharda Goswāmī Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanand Dāsa Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Śrīla Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vṛndāvana Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Mahārāja Ki Jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Śrīla Vṛndāvana dāsa Ṭhākura Ki Jai Tadiya Shubha Tirobhav Titi Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Uddhava-gīta Ki Jai Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Thakur Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti Ki Jai Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Prabhupāda Gauḍīya Bhāṣya Ki Jai Shri Kesha Vrat Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this reading. Now I'm going to get... should I get the Mridanga? It's a little bit difficult to get to. I'm going to get the Mridanga. And then we can sing Keshavashtakam together. One second. Let me just skip it. See, Mridanga's up here. Okay, so how do I balance this? I don't know what to do. Where to put this? Anyways, I think I'll just put it down here and I'll just sing into it. Okay. Actually, wait. One second. And just... There, this works. Okay. Shri Keshavashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Nava Priya Kamanjari Rachita Karna Pura Shriyam Vinedratara Malati Kalita Shekare Nojvalam Tarojvasita Yutika Kratita Valguvai Kakshakam Bhaje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Bhaje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Vishangi Manikastani Pranata Shringi Pinge Kshane Mridanga Mukhi Dumale Shabalihang Sivangshi Priye Iti Sasura Bhikula Taralama Vayantam Mura Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Kana Pranaya Medhuran Madhuri Narma Goshti Kala Vilasa Nilayan Milay Vivida Vesha Vidyotinan Sakina Kila Saraya Patishuha Sayantam Gira Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Shamambukanika Vali Daravili Dagandantara Samura Giri Dhatuvir Likita Charupantram Puram Udancharali Mandali Dyuti Vidam Vivakralaka Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Nibaddha Navatarnaka Vali Vilokanodkhantaya Natat Kuraputan Chalai Alugubir Bhuvan Hindatin Kalena Dhavala Ghata Lagu Nirvartayantam Puro Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Padankatati Virvaram Virachayantam Advashriyam Chalattarala Chiki Nichaya Dholi Dhumra Srajam Marulla Hari Chanchali Krita Dukula Churanchala Braje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Vilasa Murali Kala Dvani Pirula Sanmanasa Shanarakila Ballabha Pulakayantamantar Grihe Ohor Vidatatang Hridi Pramuditancha Goshte Share Vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam Upeta pati sundari Tati virabhyarabhyarchita Smitang purakaram pitar Natarapanga pangeshatai Sanastava sanchara Nayana chanchari kanchala Bhaje Vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam Idam nikila Ballabha Kula mahotsavo lasana Kramena kilaya puman Patati shushtu padashtakam Tamojvaladhiyam sada Nijapadaravinda dvaye Ratim dadara chanchalam Sukayatar vishaka saka Bhaje Vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata keshavam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Jai Keshavade 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 Jaya Keshavade Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Sat Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari Jaya Jaya Guru Deva Guru no sorry Jaya Rupa Gosvāmī Jaya Rupa Gosvāmī Rupa Gosvāmī Prabhu Rupa Gosvāmī Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hare Krishna everybody. See you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Dandavat pranams Rohit Radha Krishna ji. Hari Bol everybody. Jai Shri Radhe.